Hi, and welcome to my channel. For those new here, my name's Nikki, and I post videos here on YouTube about reading, writing, editing, and language learning, and anything else I love. And it's language learning that we're here for today. I'm actually just going to restart this channel after a bit of a break. And I thought one thing that might be interesting was just to do a very, quick and dirty overview of some of the different language learning resources that are out there these days. I've been learning languages since I was at high school. Firstly, in that sort of school environment with textbooks and following a curriculum. And then in more recent times, through self-study, just as a language takes my interest and I've started learning a bit. So there are lots of ways of learning languages these days, and many of them even don't have to cost you very much if you're on a tight budget. So I thought we'd have a little bit of a look through some of these items and consider how they could help you. So to start off with, let's consider YouTube, since that's where we are today. There's always a ton of resources by various content creators on YouTube for language learning. How much there is will depend on the language you pick. Obviously, if you pick a really popular language, there'll be a lot to choose from. If you pick something a bit more obscure, like when I was trying to learn Icelandic, Icelandic does not have quite as many resources as, say, French or Korean. But you'll definitely find content of some kind, particularly if you pick a more popular language. And this content can really vary. This is everything from vocab videos to grammar videos to vlogs and podcasts for listening practice. There's even shadowing videos and such going on these days as well. So this is a really awesome resource that essentially is free. And you may find if you have a little bit of budget available, perhaps some content creators don't release the transcripts for free, but if you join their subscriber service, then you can get them, which is often through Patreon or YouTube membership, which doesn't necessarily have to cost a huge amount. The main difficulty will be, as in many of the resources I'm going to mention, narrowing down the content that you want to consume. And this is partly because can become overwhelming. You have so many videos and so many options, and you don't know where to start. And also because you can sometimes end up picking content that's not right for your level. So those are the two key points when choosing YouTube creators, YouTube content, and also podcasts, which I'll get onto next, because you want to choose something that is at a suitable level for where you're at in your language learning journey. So if you're a beginner, it's a pretty good idea to start with those vocab and beginner grammar videos before moving up to vlogs and podcasts. If you're more intermediate, make sure your podcasts are at the correct level for you. There's quite a few creators. I follow a few people for Korean, and there's one who actually creates two podcasts every week. One's aimed at beginners and is a little bit shorter with easier language, and the other one is for intermediate students where it's a bit longer and a bit more detailed. So just be careful when you're choosing, but there's an absolute ton of material out there on YouTube for language learning. As I mentioned, podcasts are the next one to consider, and many of these are available on YouTube as well as being available through Spotify and the like. And again, just make sure the content you're picking is suitable for your level. Then there are websites. Often content creators on YouTube or those who are running podcasts will also have websites, some of which can be full of really great information. For an example, in Korean, I follow Go Billy Korean here on YouTube. He also has a wonderful website with loads of resources as well. And sometimes these websites are available completely for free. Sometimes there's a small fee for a subscription service. So it just depends on your financial situation at the time and your requirements. But you can definitely find something at every end of the scale, depending on what you're looking for. Then there's language exchange. So this could be through apps like Tandem and the like, where it's free, but you just got to rely on forming those relationships with people to have those conversations. And then at the other end of the spectrum, you have things like italki, where you can pay for a tutor to spend half hour to an hour with you, either for conversation practice or for more sort of curriculum-based tutoring, depending on what you're after. And this can be a little bit pricier, but it doesn't have to be. For instance, italki, I just do one class a month, which makes it affordable for me. It gets me a little bit of speaking practice every month, but I'm not sort of draining my coffers to pay for it every week or multiple times a week. We can also consider other online options, particularly as you get into an intermediate level. You're going to find newspapers, you're going to find other magazine or other sort of webtoon, web novel type content. Again, some of which you'd be able to access for free, some of which will have a subscription attached. And I think for a beginner, that's probably a little bit too hard. But once you get to intermediate, it's worth checking out some of those resources. I know in the past for sort of French and German, I've watched, French and German news via their sort of streaming services, which have always been free, all the stuff I've watched. So that's always a good option as well. Now we come into needing a little bit of money, but there's also traditional books. Now, I'm still a big fan of traditional books as a learning method. In addition to all this online stuff I also do, I tend to avoid textbooks mostly. I've done a few for some languages, but I find textbooks boring very quickly. So most of my book buying, I focus on grammar texts, dictionaries, and those kind of reference works. And I leave the rest of the language learning journey of the grammar and everything to online materials, whether that's YouTube videos or website pages. However, if you're someone who is really fond of a strict curriculum, if you like that structure of being taken through step by step, then textbooks are definitely a worthwhile investment and perhaps worth saving up for. Maybe most of the languages I've started learning self-study. In recent years, I've started them online with free resources to give myself a bit of a feel for them before I've invested in books and those sort of things. At this point, you can also start to consider things like short courses and paid option websites. So there are some websites that maybe have a little bit of free content, but you have to pay for the rest. And at that point, if you liked their free content and you think it's going to be worthwhile for you, that's something you can also consider at that stage. And then you go into the really high end, high cost side of things, which are your paid courses and your sort of official courses with certificates and qualifications at the end, your travel for working holidays, your travel for language programs and things like that. I've never done any of that, I have to say, outside of finishing studies at school. But I've done quite a few free courses on MOOC sites such as Coursera, FutureLearn, edX. Several of those offer language course options, and most of these courses you pay if you want a certificate at the end, but you can audit the course and watch all the materials for free. So I've done quite a few. I've done some for sort of Japanese, Chinese, Korean, even Norwegian, and a couple of other random ones I tried just for fun through those sites as well. So this was just a bit of a brief brain dump on some of the language learning methods that are out there in modern times. It's no longer just sitting with a textbook or sitting in the classroom listening to your teacher and having to repeat vocab after her. There are so many options out there now that I think there's opportunities for anyone who wants to learn a language to learn. That's regardless of their learning style, how much money they have available to spend on it. Even with zero budget, you can learn a language if you have the motivation and you know where to start looking. So, what are your thoughts? Do you have any preferences when it comes to language learning? What are your go-to items when you want to start a new language? Pop some answers in the comments and I'll be interested to read them. I'll end there for today, but I hope to join you all again soon for another video. Bye for now, everyone.